A man that needs no introduction, but we're going to give him one anyway. You know, this is friend of the program. One of the greatest friends of the program, let's be honest. He's Dave Klein of SpartanHoops.com. He is the prophet of everything Michigan State basketball. DK, we're a little less than 24 hours after the Illinois road defeat. How are we feeling? Let's get a vibe check from the world of DK right now.
Yeah, I woke up feeling a little bit just unsettled. Felt like maybe we let one slip away a little bit last night. Primary concern is obviously the Hall injury. You just have to hope that it's nothing serious. There's been some reports I put out there on Twitter this morning that I woke up and I was worried, just I hope he's doing all right. 2 confirmed reports have seen him in line at Dunkin' Donuts, no boot. He's walking in a shoe. I mean, the people got our back out on the internet. So I'm going to hold my breath until we get a formal report one way or the other, because if he's out this week, I really think it's probably the biggest swing week for the program in terms of their Big Ten title contention hopes. You really probably got to win both, but if you split one, you have to probably beat Purdue on Monday. So this is a scenario where, I thought Michigan State played good enough basketball for about 33, 34 minutes to win that game last night. Meyer ends up getting hot, kind of cooks us a little bit at the end there. Hall goes down, and I watched the Izzo post-game presser, and he just thought the team kind of got gassed and they ran out of steam at the end, and that kind of is what it looked like. They just weren't able to get a stop in the last 4 minutes and couldn't continue to put pressure. But great crowd atmosphere from Illinois. Credit them for the win. But the refs were garbage too. We're just going to put that out there. So
I want to get to those zebras later in a little bit. We're going to hit the pause button on that, though, because other than obviously like officiating, we're going to leave Malik Hall's injury to the side. And it is good news that he is walking around in a normal shoe, because let's be honest, like Michigan State's coaching staff, I think they get paid $500 every time they hand out a walking boot. Like they use walking boots so like liberally in the program that, okay, after the game, he's not in one. Oh, okay, like it's not official, but things are looking good right now. Besides those 2 points, though, like what was your biggest takeaway for Michigan State in this game? For me, it was, okay, well, you kind of got caught finally not having like a dominant big man, because, well, Dane Danger kind of ate things up there at the end. But do you have something else that stuck out to you more than either the Hall injury or
I mean,
the
I think
officiating?
that. Yeah, I think we knew that this roster was slightly flawed coming into the season. We had real concerns about what it was going to look like at the center spot. I think Maddie has probably exceeded some expectations in some games, and other games, he's fallen a little short. And this one, to me, was not so much about the inability to be able to score easy points, because Michigan State actually had more points in the paint, believe it or not, because the guards end up having so much dribble penetration throughout the entire night and really got wherever they wanted to. But I thought that this was the inability to defend the post one-on-one, and that's probably what we saw. I thought Carson Cooper gave some really nice minutes. I was actually surprised that, like the last 7 or 8 minutes, they didn't go back to him. I get he's a freshman. I get that, he's had an up and down, but I thought that he played some of the best basketball we've seen from him, obviously, over his entire very early career that game. And so for me, I might have gone back to the well there a little bit. It sounds like Izzo had intended to play the small ball lineup had Hall not got banged up. So we might have seen that worked for them at the end of the Wisconsin game. He wanted to go back to that, and he wasn't able to do it. So I mean, this is a tough conference not to have a guy that can go get you an easy 2 inside the paint, and somebody that can just defend, straight up on that. And that's kind of the issue that we're running into now. It's not going to go away. That's going to be a problem. And I think, to a certain degree, they're missing an elite wing defender too. I think Hall's pretty decent. Okay. I think Akins is pretty good at guarding the perimeter in some spots, but I think they're missing a guy, to be honest with you, like Cohen Carr, just a guy who's 6'6", 6'7", long, athletic, and is really going to cause some disruption there. A guy like Aaron Henry that we're just missing to kind of lock down that perimeter.
I got to say, like when he announced his commitment to Michigan State, and even to start the season, I had no idea I'd be talking about Carson Cooper this much in the middle of January, but here we are. And is he the next man up off the bench now? Like, do you think he's jumped over Jackson Kohler at this point of the season? Or is this just, this is how the matchups have gone the last 2 games here?
Yeah, that's what Izzo's kept alluded to, and I think he's trying to keep Kohler's confidence up. But what
Yeah.
does Kohler at this current moment do better than Carson Cooper? And you can't really answer that. Like I think he
He
can give you
bites
some
for pump
buckets
fakes better. He jumps at pump fakes even better than
Yeah,
Carson
and
Cooper.
I don't
That's
want to go
good.
too hard on him because this is going to
Yeah, of
be an
course. Yeah.
adjustment year for him, and I expected his offense to be much further along than it is at this point. And so yeah, I don't know. We're gonna have to speak about Carson Cooper because how he performed in that end of the first half. 6 points, 4 boards, a couple left-handed layups. He had
It
that
was
dunk in
nuts.
transition. He
Right.
caught the ball at like the top of the key and took a dribble and just like flushed it. I was like, oh my God. So he showed some flashes. I thought that was maybe the most complete, like just run that he had, steady run in a game. And I think that you absolutely have to keep tapping in because he's 6'11", he's athletic, he moves
Yeah.
well. I think you could make an argument that he walls up probably better than anyone else on the team. I mean, Maddie's never really been a wall up guy. He's kind of been more of a physical guy. So I think that we're going to continue to see more minutes out of him. And I thought it was going to take a couple years, but maybe heading into next season, we're going to be talking about him playing closer to 12, 15 minutes a game.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a very good thing. So that was a bit of an eye-opening performance from him, particularly in the venue and just how like raucous it was for him to play as well as he did. I would have liked to see them maybe reward him and gone back to him a little bit later, but so it just ended up being the way that the rotation worked out once Hall went down.
And let's go to the other, storyline of the game. You, of course, alluded to it earlier. It's been nonstop chatter on Twitter, and I'll try not to ramble too long, but when it comes to officiating, I think the game yesterday was finally the moment where I realized that I think I'm just, like, apathetic to it at this point. Like, Tyson Walker gets absolutely steamrolled in the paint, clear as day charge. They called a block, and honestly, like, my blood pressure didn't even spike a little bit because the Big Ten is now, to me, just home of questionable officiating at best. When I was a kid, we played in a baseball tournament in Warren. Shout out to Helmich Park. The umpires were atrocious. There was one umpire that would close his eyes and turn his head every time the pitch came in. There was one time he called a ball when a kid swung because he never saw the kid swung. Anyway, that was kind of like the gimmick of the tournament, that the umpires were just horrible. This is what I view of the Big Ten now, is that every night you're just going to get trash officiating. And that's like, I don't know. Like, I think I'm apathetic now. Like, how do you just dissect the whole officiating thing in the Big Ten? Because it's gone forever now.
We've seen 2 games clearly. The end of the Rutgers-Ohio State game where Ohio State stepped out of bounds. That cost them the game. And then we saw the flip side of that when Minnesota drove clear block. I mean, he had nothing but ball. They call a foul, and Minnesota ends up icing that one. So we've seen of recent at least 2 games where there was a clear, like the outcome was dictated by, the officiating. I just think it's kind of down across everywhere. It's been really bad.
Yeah.
That game to me last night, I don't think that the refs cost Michigan State the game, but I thought that they cost them the ability to be in the game late, if that makes sense. Like there was enough momentum swinging calls when Michigan State had some real pressure on Illinois. They called that Hogard charge. I watched that back 3 or 4 times. He didn't chicken wing him, didn't really bump him with the shoulder. We saw the flop earlier on that Hall call. And then not to turn around and give it back to Tyson after he takes an elbow in the chin. Like it was kind of death by 1,000 cuts from that. Got to credit Jay Birch here because he tweeted something underneath my post. Illinois went 12 plus minutes without committing a foul in the second half. Only Illinois infraction between 18:41 and 6:15 was the Underwood tech that he got. Like, that's impossible. We outscored him points in the paint. I know we took a lot of mid-range jump shots, but a lot of what we did was inside the paint yesterday. And to not have like a 12-minute run, and I think there was 9 straight calls called against us. Again, I don't think that it cost us the game because Michigan State was up, I think 9, and then they had back-to-back turnovers. Walker coughed up a couple. They had a shot in the corner from Akins when it was 7 to push it up to 10. Like, they had some opportunities, but when you're in that space, in that environment, and you have to overcome the whistle on top of being on the road, on top of the Hall injury, it just seemed like it kind of compiled too much. They didn't get a stop the last 4 minutes. So ultimately, Meyer cooked us. You don't get a stop. Like, you're not going to win games like that if you don't execute and play well down the stretch. So I don't want to – I'm not taking anything away from the Illinois win, but I just
Mhm.
thought that the entire game, every time Michigan State made a push, they had an ability to maybe even push that out or provide some comfort with the lead, and they just couldn't get a call. And it was a little bit frustrating. I just thought top to bottom, that was one of the worst officiated games I'd seen all season.
And we'll probably talk about another poorly officiated game somewhere in the very near future because, just like I said, this is what I've come to realize what the Big Ten, and just like you said, kind of just college basketball as a whole is. And I don't envy these refs at all. Like, it is a very tough job. I would never take it. I'm sure they do have a problem finding guys that want to officiate games just because, well, just how mean people like us are to
I
them
guess
on
so.
the internet.
They're getting paid like $3,500 to $5K a pop to go to one of those games. I mean, they have to pay for the travel and all the rest of it, but
Okay.
it's pretty decent money. So
I don't feel okay. Never mind then. I don't feel so bad if that's really what they're getting then. Screw them. All right, there we go. I want to get to the Purdue game in a hot second here, DK. But first, I need to talk people's ears off about BetOnline.net. It's Wild Card Weekend, everyone. Or hey, if you're listening to this episode beyond Wild Card Weekend, they still got you covered at BetOnline with anything that you could ever need. They got your futures for all your leagues that you like, whether it's pro or college. They've got it set up because they are your number one source for your sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds, trends, and action for every professional and amateur league out there, from pro football to college basketball. That's right, we got NBA, we got PGA golf in the mix. They got it all at betonline.net, point blank, period. And if you love sports podcasts, you can find even more of those at BetOnline as well. We are always the fastest and easiest way to get in on all of your sports betting action. So what are you waiting for? Head to the website today. Use a mobile device, learn more about the trends and action that is at BetOnline, where the game starts. And let's kick off this next segment here with talk about Monday's game. It's just the ever normal time of 2:30 p.m. on a Monday for some Michigan State
I know I'm
basketball.
sliding up there. I'm pretty excited.
Hey,
MLK Day,
now
let's do it.
let's
Here we
go. Wow,
Yep.
that's how you spend a Monday right there. How are you feeling for the game? I don't even have a creative question around this. Just how are you feeling? Because obviously Purdue, pretty good. They've only lost one game, and that was by 1 point. But also, gone to overtime against Nebraska. I mean, a few weeks ago, not their game. They just beat them by 30. And they've also had another close game here. Like, is Purdue vulnerable? Is Purdue vulnerable?
I think that they're partially vulnerable, but I think that the most shocking part of it is just how well the freshman backcourt has been playing.
I know.
Yeah. Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer have been as good as advertised. They're playing like upperclassmen. Neither of these guys was particularly highly touted. I think both of them were outside the top 100. And both of these guys have come in. And I think some of it is that Zach Edey takes a ton of pressure off the entire roster. When you have a monster in the middle, a guy you can kick the ball into, defenses are forced to sag and double and hedge. And I think that it makes it a little bit easier for you to make a transition. But really, they both have been, by and far, exceeded expectations for just what I thought they were going to be this season. I just really didn't like the backcourt. I thought they were going to have some struggles. They haven't really gone on and seen a venue like they're going to see on Monday. I think that maybe that gives you some hope. Two big wins, I think, over Duke, and maybe they beat Gonzaga as well. I think both of those are on a neutral. They really struggled on the road at Nebraska. That's the first real kind of like venomous venue that they've seen. And I think that if the Breslin is rocking, there's going to be some mistakes made. I think that you have to capitalize on it. But I think you like Michigan State and the veterans. If Hall is healthy and can go, I think Michigan State's going to give them a fight. And I think that what you saw from the Illinois game is that the backcourt is really good, maybe the best in the Big Ten. I thought Hoggard, for the most part, was pretty damn good. He had a couple loose turnovers where you're like, he took that three in a one possession game. You probably want that one back. But I think that he's playing pretty free. He's playing pretty locked in, and the mid-range game for him it's completely changed the ceiling of who he is as an offensive player. He's hitting mid-range jump shots. He's got a little floater. He's got a little post-up game now. He's right behind Jalen Pickett for the best point guard in the Big Ten right now, and I think Michigan State's going to have to really lean on those two guys to not only score offensively, but I think really cause some disruption, because Braden Smith, I think, is like maybe 5'11", 5'10". He's got a longer wingspan, but he's a smaller guy. Fletcher Lawyer is like 6'4". So I think Michigan State defensively can get in these guys and create some disruption, create some problems for them. So I think that's really the matchup that I'm circling. Edey's obviously going to demand a ton of attention, but to me, he's going to score 25 plus. I think this is a game where you just let him get his. If you stop everything else and you make Edey, score 25 to 30 points, but you shut off the water everywhere else, I think it's a game that Michigan State can win, and that's what I'd like to see.
There's one stat here that really sticks out to me as hope for us Michigan State fans. And believe me, there's a lot of stats that give a lot of hope to Purdue fans. Like, okay, their adjusted efficiency on offense, number 5 in the country. They got a top 40 defensive efficiency. Number 1 rebounding team offensively. They're a top 35 defensive rebounding team. Free throw rate, they're top 40. Opposing free throw rate, they're number 1 in the country. I can go on and on about this, DK, but that one stat that I like as a State fan is that the three-point percentage is only 32.6%. That is outside of the top 200 in the country. So let's say Edey gets the ball, and I'm sure teams have tried this all up and down before, and it's easier said than done against a guy that's 7'5". Sag down on him, you make him pass, and Edey does have good vision, but hopefully he passes it to the outside shooter, and in a tough environment like Breslin Center, that 32.6% chance of making a three-pointer comes to fruition. That's really the beacon of light that I'm staring at here for hope for this win.
I'd say the only guy that you really just absolutely can't leave to me is Fletcher Loyer, because he's shown the ability to hit big game shots. You saw in the OSU game, they doubled down on Edey. He hit that 3. Again, he just plays like a veteran. If you're going to double and you're going to hard hedge, you're going to do some things to mix up the defense against Edey. I think the one guy that you just can't let start getting hot from deep is Loyer for me. You can't do it.
Also, just because it would really hurt, like, internally. Like, oh, great, a guy with the last name Loyer on his jersey is absolutely tearing us to shreds. Like, that's what we thought would happen in Breslin Center, but for a guy named Foster when he played here, that's what we
right. See, well, maybe we have that
Fletcher
going for us. There wasn't very many shots made from his brother in the Breslin Center, so let's hope we can continue that trend against the younger one.
We'll always have that Eastern Michigan game against that world's worst zone defense when he had like 26 or whatever he had that one. I don't know, but I digress. Last question before I let you enjoy the rest of your week. And thanks a ton for your time, man, especially recording on a Saturday here. But what does this game mean to you just personally as a fan here? Because for me, like if they beat Purdue, then okay, I still think that Big Ten title is in reality. Whereas like if they lose this game, like no, it's not completely out of the question. But now I start to switch into the mindset of, let's just try to get a great tournament seed, if you will. So what's your mindset going into this?
Yeah, I would agree with that, because I just don't think Purdue is going to lose maybe more than 4 or 5 games. You have to deliver one to them. You're going to Mackey. You're probably not going to get that. And then you look at Rutgers. You don't have to play them at the rack, but you're going to MSG. I think these are the 2 other best teams, in my opinion. I think we saw one of them Friday night. Illinois has really turned a corner.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start presenting some problems for teams. They can, they can get in stretches where they make bad decisions, take bad shots, but I think that they're going to maybe still finish as a top 5 team in the conference this year. So we're kind of entering into the run of seeing all the top teams. You'd love to go 2-0 this week, but if you only go 1-1, to me, you have to beat Purdue, because I think Rutgers is going to take enough losses during the course of the season where they're going to compete for one, but I don't think they're going to be able to quite deliver. Purdue is the team that you got to get another loss on. Then you have the head-to-head, and you see what happens. So, yeah, I think it's a must-win really for the Big Ten title hopes, because you dropped that one Friday, and there's really nothing you can do about it at this point. So.
Well said. There we go. Well, everything you say is well said, DK. I always love having you on. Thanks a ton for joining us. Any final parting words before we let you enjoy your Saturday night here?
No, man, but I think that if they go out and they beat Purdue and Rutgers this week, I think that I think that expectations have already kind of been exceeding slowly but surely during the course of the season. We've had some ups and downs, but now it looks like we've kind of rounded into form. I think that if they go out and they go 2-0 this next week, that we need to start really thinking about this team as capable of making a deeper run in March, because you look around the rest of the country and there's a couple pretty damn good teams at the top, but I think ultimately there's maybe 4 or 5 teams that you don't want to see, and I think everybody else, the degree of separation is very marginal. So get into the tournament, get yourself the best seed that you can, but ultimately just stay healthy and keep playing this style of basketball, because the last month has been pretty good, And even that Illinois game, there was some really, really good things that came out of it. It just didn't end up being able to close it. So come out this week swinging, find a way to at least beat Purdue. You beat Purdue on Monday. You're playing with house money, in my opinion, and you could probably feel confident coming to that Rutgers game. If you lose, then that Rutgers game becomes kind of a must-win situation a little bit. So,
and if they go 2-0, I'm calling you immediately, and we are booking flights down to Houston for the first weekend in April. It's going to be absolutely a knee-jerk reaction that I'm willing to make. So, yeah, that's how we roll here on Locked on Spartans. So, hey, thanks a lot, DK. You're the man.
Thanks for having me always, Matt. Appreciate it.
You're the best, man. All right, everyone else, go enjoy the rest of your weekend. Let's get this dub on Monday. Love you all. Go.